Hi, everyone. So, if you like my channel, please like and subscribe. There's a notifications bell you can get to let you know when I'm going live. Today is a really important subject, and I had the most amazing conversation with a woman named Seema out of the Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences department at University of Washington Harborview. And hi, Warrior. Hi, Megan. Um, and one of the things that I really wanted to talk to her about was the concept and understanding the concept of harm reduction more than just the words. Harm reduction, obviously, it's about reducing harm, but reducing harm how? And is it enabling? Because there seems to be that misconception. Hi, King. Hi, Be Kind. So when I talked to her about this, I found that it was very what I thought, which was in harm reduction, you are taking people as they are. And so many of the arguments I've heard are, yeah, but they're on drugs. Yeah, but are they going to do treatment? Yeah, but. Here's the thing with harm reduction, we look across the board and thank you, Warrior. We look across the board and it's a pragmatic approach. And it says it has nothing to do with whether one should or should not be engaged in an activity. It is about understanding that human behavior is human behavior. Yes, everyone's going to know somebody that didn't, or have a story about this outlier or somebody that beat the odds. But in reality, people use substances. Human beings have used substances throughout the history. And so accepting that and not looking at it as a morality issue stems, and then you look at, okay, this is taking, could I explain what harm reduction programs entail? I will as soon as I explain what I was explaining. Hold on just a moment, and I will actually. Um, so when we're looking at harm reduction, we're taking people as they come. In other words, if you are mentally ill, if you are on substance abuse, if you are not either of those things, what is going on that is harmful? And we know that the basis of everything and the basis of a healthy human being is food, water, and shelter. In other words, a safe and stable place to be, and food and water, your baseline covered, and access to healthcare, access to services, but the autonomy to choose which services they're going to get. And that is, and I'm looking over here because during the conversation with her, I took notes because it was just so important. And and I will be doing many as we go, and the more I learn, I will be doing more vlogs about this. Um, Autonomy is one of the huge issues. Human beings as a species are contradictory sometimes. In other words, if they're told to do one thing, they will rail against it and do something else. Some are worse than others. I know I'm horrible about it. I am awful about it. But here's the crux, and I think she put this so well, is it's about life and sustaining life. That is what harm reduction means. Yes, exactly. Megan, me in particular. I am very contrary. I don't like being told what to do. Even by myself. It really is on another level. Um, but that is about life. It's about saving lives. And so here's where it dispels any argument is you can't get better if you're dead. Once you are dead, your chances of getting better or getting healthy or leading a good life are over. So we know based on fact and data that humans use things, whether that be as simple as, well, and it's not simple, too much Tylenol or tobacco or alcohol or any of these things, many, many others. There are innumerable substances out there in the world. You know, I use marijuana. It has helped me so very much. Um, but there's addiction and addictive behavior comes before substance. So when we accept that somebody who has had a genetic predisposition or environmental causes or trauma that has changed the way that their brain chemistry works, they may be fine until they hit that substance that triggers that. Addiction is a disease. And so we have to look at what accept people and what can we do to reduce the harm in their lives to make it so it is easier for them to choose the right path to getting better and have that autonomy to do so. Um, Getting better on their terms, I think, is a good way to put it. And the data has shown with harm reduction that the majority of people do try to do better and get the care that they need once they are stable. And so I'm just really, they were, the heart program, and that there's a, in my description, there's a link to the heart program along with links to how you can support me in my mission and like wish list. But the thing about the heart, they are focused a lot on substance abuse. Oh, hi, Kat. Haven't seen you in a minute. Um, so they're focused a lot on substance abuse, but I really believe that harm reduction can be taken to a whole nother level. I think can be used in our lives personally out in the community. In other words, if we see another human being struggling, even if it isn't substance, what if it's not mental illness, they're just going through it? What can we do to reduce the amount of trauma that's coming from the stress they're under? What can we do to be a better village, and better human beings and reduce the harm in our own lives? And I think that as we go along and we look at harm reduction and and part of that is also, I just want to say, just taking away some of the barriers that there are to people getting better. And that can be especially I'm just going to throw out especially displacement and homelessness. If a person has had an addiction problem before homelessness, it's going to be very difficult to get better while they are homeless. If they've developed it because of the trauma of homelessness, or maybe because of whatever, and they're homeless, to not have adequate shelter, adequate food, adequate water, adequate services to even begin to make the decision to get healthy. How it's setting people up for failure. And the basis of harm reduction is making sure that people are set up for success if they so choose. Thank you, Warrior. That's very nice. I appreciate that very much, truly. Um, so I guess that's really why I wanted to learn more about harm reduction and how I can support that in my outreach and reaching out to others and, doing what I do. And so it was important to meet with her. And I'm going to get lots more information on it because she has my email, and I'm going to be taking some webinars on it, which makes me just thrilled. Yay. And then I wanted to say as well, the other, or was it might have been yesterday, or yeah, it was yesterday. Yesterday I went to a town hall, and I was late and ended up running in and only caught the last half of it. But it was also with I believe I've talked about it before, is the resolution to end homelessness. Um, and they just have some wonderful organizations come on. And there was one called Choose 180, and it really struck me. The executive director has a phenomenal, just very touching story, and it was a great talk. What I'm very interested in is they have a diversion program for youth that I think is very important. And one of the things I noticed when they were discussing what they do with the kids is it is extremely very similar to cognitive, or it might be along the same lines as cognitive behavioral therapy. And it really just made me come back to, you know, these are some of the skills that we need to be teaching everyone. It isn't just waiting until somebody's going through a hard time or somebody is vulnerable. Cognitive behavioral skills are important. Critical thinking skills are important. Um, Knowing where we're at emotionally, understanding where emotions are and how they work, and all of these things are important. Understanding that mental illness, even though it is used as a blanket term, is varied and has many, many, many different illnesses. And that's one thing I kind of laugh at, or not laugh at. I actually find it actually pretty horrible. Is that, around here you hear, is what related to suicide in some way? Warrior. Hold on, I'm waiting for a reply. Is we all need therapy, don't you think? Um, okay, I think that here's what I think with therapy. I think that we can all, yes, and those thoughts are can be related to suicide. I'll get more into that in just a moment. I think, yeah, of course, therapy would be beneficial to all of us, but there are many different kinds of therapy, and I think that that's a misnomer of itself, because there's several that like talk therapy. There's CBT, there's DBT, there's INS. There's many different kinds of therapy, and as we go, we learn that some are a little more beneficial for uh, certain types of illnesses, and so it's really important to, and especially if you do not have a support system to talk to. Um, Isolation is very common in a lot of illnesses, not just mental illnesses, physical illnesses as well. Isolation is a huge issue, and so reaching out, even if that is in a therapeutic level, to someone that you are reaching out to, having contact with, talking about your life and your experiences with is so important. Humans are social creatures. And if you find yourself isolating, or you know someone who is isolating or seems to be showing behaviors of isolation, please make sure you reach out, or at least provide them with methods to reach out to somebody. It's really, really important, and it can lead to suicide. Mental illness, some mental illnesses lead to suicide. Um, Brain injuries, you know, it's something that I struggle with. Suicidal ideation due to my brain injuries and associated issues. And I think it's important that we're honest about that, and we talk to each other about that, and we educate people about that. Um, Hi, Glenn. I feel lonely in a crowd sometimes. Yeah, yeah, I have been there. I will be honest, I don't feel lonely very much anymore. Um, I don't know why. I'm alone a lot and I don't feel lonely very much anymore. But being in a huge crowd, it's a good way to make me feel isolated, like I'm wanting to isolate real quick. Have I gone through a depression in your life? If yes, can I talk a little bit about it? Yes, actually, I have major depressive disorder along with rapid cycling bipolar and generalized anxiety, complex PTSD. I'm a ball of fun. um, it's been rough. I'm not, no punches pulled. Um, there have been several suicide attempts, very serious ones, throughout my life. One of my head injuries is due to a suicide attempt. Um, the worst came from the horror of not understanding what was going on and not being able to trust in my healthcare enough or my doctors enough due to poor experiences to be able to find out. As a female that went through endometriosis, fibromyalgia, acute iritis, and ongoing physical problems, many times in the healthcare system, when we display, especially like endometriosis, when I started having problems with that, I was told to see a therapist before I was referred to a gynecologist. Um, it made me very adverse for a long time to even admitting that I was having problems functioning mentally. I couldn't tell my doctor for fear that they would diagnose my physical issues as mental issues and not listen and not be attentive and not get me the care that I needed. And, after one diagnosis, there was, the almost relief of having an actual diagnosis and not having it in the air. But then the next thing cropped up, and again, it was, and these things led to not just that, but the trauma. Complex PTSD came from being, I don't know what, I'm going to just say abused because sometimes I use the term severely abused, and abuse is abuse, and I don't, it's all severe. Um, No, be kind, you are fine, and you are expressing yourself just fine. And I hope I'm answering your question as well as I can. Um, Depression is a difficult thing to get through. Um, the first time I lost someone to suicide, it was my little brother, and he was 18, and he had been pretty horribly abused as well. Um, Sorry, it's painful. It's painful. When you know every suicide I've gone through, including my stepsons at 15, there have been traumatic experiences in those kids' backgrounds. First time I tried committing suicide, or the first time I thought about suicide, of course, I was a kid, probably around 9, 8 or 9. These things have real impacts on our brain. Um, it's, we are left, even if we look fine, sometimes with scars that people can't see. But they can see it if they look. You can see it in behavior sometimes. You can see it in, like, I had people that, like in that invisible people thing, I was reading the comments, and there were people who were like, "She's bipolar." I was like, yeah, and so what? That doesn't mean anything except I have an illness and I need to understand it and learn about it. And then I can learn how to cope with it. And that was the same thing with the brain injuries, learning about what a frontal lobe injury will do to you as far as impulsiveness and chattiness and all sorts of things. It's a learning experience, but it's an understanding experience. And by understanding these things and having empathy for others and understanding that it's a very personal journey that everyone goes on, and that's why we have to be empathetic because we will never truly understand someone else's reality. You can't perceive what you're not. Everybody has their own perception. I don't know if that last thing made even any sense, but I'm going to address some of the comments now. Um, Glenn, I agree animals can aid therapy. I know that for me, Rowan has been phenomenal in helping me not be isolated, to calm the morning time. I have really hard time in the morning. I wake up a lot of times with horrible anxiety and panic, and sometimes a hard time breathing. And Rowan's right there. I remember in the tent, the first time I had her, and not the first time I had nightmares, but it's the first time I had her, and I was having horrible nightmares. I woke up and she was awake, wrapped around my head, just looking out. And I felt so safe, like I could go to sleep and it was going to be okay. That she has provided me with so much support. Before her, I never had anyone that would sit in a hospital on the floor waiting for me to get an infusion and calm my fears and then understand when my blood pressure drops and let the nurses know. I mean, come on. It's like Wonder Dog, who really likes to play. Snotty sometimes. But yeah, I agree. No, because you didn't make me cry. The thing is I have emotions, and they're strong emotions. And it's okay to cry when something hits you right there. And it's okay to laugh when you feel joy. I want everyone to understand that tears can be cathartic, helpful, therapeutic. Um, if they crop up, they crop up. If, that joy that I have comes bubbling up, I laugh. So only fear what you don't know. Yeah. Um, how can we know if a person has bipolar disease? Like, what are the symptoms? The only way, you need to get diagnosed. You need to see a psychiatrist, and they need to track your moods. Um, I remember when I was young, the kids would be like, "You're just manic depressive." Then all of a sudden, the therapist started saying it, and I was like, I am not, because it had such a negative connotation, such a stigma behind it. Like, if you had this, you couldn't think rationally. And that was not the case at all. I didn't want my intelligence to be downplayed because I had an illness when I was trying to learn how to cope with it and be a better person. And now I've just gotten to the point where I'll step out. This is what it is, and we have to let people understand that you can have these things and just try to cope and do better. And there are medications that help. I am on medications. If I am not on my medications, I might be that lady down at the corner yelling at people. That's a sad reality. But the truth is, my medications keep me stable. and they keep me being able to function. And then I take marijuana for the pain and focus and calm. So, do I like that blanket? I love this blanket. This blanket's amazing. Thank you so much, Kat. Kat got this blanket, everybody. Thank you, Megan. It's being sensitive isn't a bad thing. It's you. I am glad I can feel things so deeply. It makes me happy. So if I come to New York City and start yelling at people, you will see normal. Right, but it would make me feel good. Like I enjoy that when I'm walking down the street, I can just like if I'm glowing, it's like other people smile at me. It's really great. It's like generating smiles. So, do I have a PO box or plan to have one? I actually have a mailing address underneath. I can put it up actually in descriptions as well. Um, Thank you, consecrated. Uh, so anyway, that's just kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about. Um, I appreciate you all so much, and I wanted to thank the person it came without notice or anything that had ordered the Advil for people and the little squeaky dog toys. They are adorable, and the rain ponchos. I will get those out to people on my next trip out. I'm going to be heading out tomorrow to do some outreach and getting people involved. So, anyway, I hope you all have an amazing day. And I hope, please, please, if you have questions for me, ask them and I will try to address them in, vlogs upcoming. Just keep the questions rolling always. That's how we learn. And that's how I learn too, is by asking questions and seeking answers. So, anyway, you guys have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.